Hello, my name is Craig Anderson, and I will be talking to you about why professionals should be allowed to compete in the Summer and Winter Olympics. Would you really care about the Kentucky Derby if only donkeys were allowed to compete? All of us hail from one country or another, and whether we embrace our nationality is up to ourselves individually. But there is one event that occurs every 2 years that usually draws every person closer to their respective countries, and that is the Winter and Summer Olympics. I have never been to an Olympic stadium or event, but I, just like the nearly 27 million other Americans, according to the media post publications online, I watched the games on television, and that was only the numbers for the first weekend. I believe that it is completely ethical and reasonable for professional athletes to compete in the Winter and Summer Olympics, because the structure of the Olympics has been changing ever since its origination. Professional athletes from the United States have encouraged more international stars to play professional sports worldwide, and in the U.S., and it would be unethical to not allow people who are the best to compete on the most competitive stage in the world. The Olympics first began as an ancient Greek festival held at Olympia every 4 years, with athletic, literary, and musical competition, directly defined in the Oxford Pocket Dictionary. So when the Olympics first began, in 1896, only athletics were founded. Music and literary competitions were completely absent. This means that 2/3 of the original Olympiad were completely erased. I would believe that this is a pretty drastic change from the original origins of the Olympic Games. If such a large change had occurred with such popular upstanding and has led to over 100 years since the first modern Olympiad, then surely a small change such as allowing all Olympic sports to have professional athletes participate would be easily understandable. Not only would this change be good for the Olympic Games, but for individual countries as well. Article writer Chad Morgan brings up an interesting point in his article on professionals in the Olympics by saying that the 1992 Barcelona Games, where the U.S. basketball team dominated completely in the first year of professional competition, many more international players made their debuts in the NBA, allowing for more countries to have more national representation in the Olympics. I know that this means one Summer Olympiad, the United States completely dominated the sport of basketball, but it has also increased international participation between star athletes. So I believe that this growth, encouraged by professional athletes competing in the NBA and other sports, makes other countries produce more athletes. Also, there is the example of ice hockey, where many of the players were already from different countries, but they weren't as apt to play as if they knew they couldn't represent their country in the Olympics. Since professional athletes were allowed to play in the Olympics, the competition got a lot tougher, and it's grown a lot more, creating more people to watch the Olympics and enjoy them. Since we've seen the international and national effects of the Olympic game, let's look at the individual aspect. Earlier I said 2 words, amateur and professional, which in everyday context are complete opposites of one another. But according to Merriam-Webster online, amateur is defined as one who engages in a pursuit, study, science, or sport as a pastime rather than a profession, whereas professional is defined as participating for gain or livelihood in an activity or field of endeavor often engaged by amateurs, and or having a particular profession as a permanent career engaged by persons learning in financial return. So this sounds to me like the only definitive factor that separates the two is money. So should it really be fair to say that we only allow amateurs to compete, causing them to give up their abilities? for the other 3 years and 11 months between each Olympics to take regular 9-to-5 jobs. This seems like there should be no professional sports ever then, because no one should truly win. Great athletes won't ever get to play the sport they love, and because that is their job, but they'll never get to truly do their job, but that's what they want to do, you know? I mean, they won't be allowed to do that. So, then again, there are some athletes that aren't even actually paid for their sport by a manager or by endorsing products, like the rarely known obscure athlete Michael Phelps. How many people would even know Michael Phelps if it weren't for the Olympics? Probably the few hundred pure swimming advocates in the world, but he has become a household name for winning so many Olympic medals. We probably could have gone all our lives without ever hearing of Michael if there was no professionals allowed in the Olympics. But I'm sure the impact it's had on his life has made him glad he is given the opportunity to compete. I still believe that it is completely ethical and reasonable for our professional athletes to compete in the Winter and Summer Olympics. As seen by the ever-changing structure at the Olympics, more international stars now play professional sports worldwide and in the U.S., and it would be unethical to not allow people who are the best to compete. Professionals should be allowed to always compete in every Olympic event, because only the difference between amateur and professionals are the income. So would you ever really watch a Kentucky Derby if all the prize horses were taken out and only donkeys were allowed to compete?